So it was February of this year. It was the day I found out that I had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. I was with my daughter Kelsey, who's 28. And I'm at a stage in my life where I've been very peaceful these last years because of other things that have occurred in my life, and I've felt really centered. Honestly, I just feel my faith in the Lord is a very important part of my life and my family's life. And so as a result of that, I really felt very grounded when I learned. I think I was more concerned about my daughter, who was upset, that I wasn't upset.
Yeah, that was weird.
And I remember calling my wife and singing a little ditty about being diagnosed with cancer. You remember that?
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Yeah, he called me up and sang, what was it?
Some little ditty.
Anyway, I was getting ready to have a Bible study in my home that night, and I just told everybody so that we could all pray together for him. And so we held hands and prayed, and I also felt peaceful, and just like our lives were in God's hands, and that we could handle whatever as long as we were together in our family. My daughter was a little upset that I shared it. She wanted to have a little bit of time to get used to the idea, but I always believe in having community and as many people praying and supporting as possible. So
it was sort of contrary to the way I've been raised. Everything's very private with my parents, any kind of major life event. And so it was really different to walk into my home and have 15 or almost 20 women turn around and look at me, and everybody knows immediately. You know, my daughter ended up just working through a place of talking about how she felt and having to work through her feelings. She's a songwriter, and she actually wrote a song related to it. But it had to do a lot with just that she's always she's taken for granted that Dad's always going to be around, and Mom and Dad everything will be great, and if I need them, they'll be there, and it just struck her. In that place, you can never take anything for granted. But things can change very quickly. So, but we've gotten through it, and you know, it's a lot of it is just also just learning about how just the mere mention having cancer, it just seems to dominate everything. You know, it's hard to have a discussion. The interesting thing, about 2 days later after being diagnosed with cancer, my brother-in-law called me. He had already been diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And he called me on the phone and said, I just heard that you were diagnosed. I am so sorry. And I stopped him and I said, you're really not going to say you're so sorry, are you? Because here he was diagnosed with, you know, very aggressive, which ended up being a stage 4 with a bone marrow transplant. So we've been sort of calling each other back and forth, just sharing each other's journeys and talking a little bit about how we feel and how our families are handling it. So we've gotten through this, both of us have gotten through this part.
We've had a lot of time with our family, a lot of dinners, and a lot of time spent together. The kids all came up for the oncology appointments, even though they're 30 and 28 and 22. And on his last day of radiation, we had a radiation is over party. So we tend to take things and just try to turn it for good, and believe that there's ways to support and encourage each other in a way that can be supportive and build you up rather than tear you down and go along the fear path.
Right.
We don't want to go that route.
So here we are. I'm doing well. I've started working out again. This last month I started running. I've always run and played soccer, and I play racket sports. And so just back at rebuilding my strength, lifting weights again. So I'm playing in a racquetball match tournament with my son, doubles, my 30-year-old. So not quite where I was when I started this whole thing, but nevertheless feeling good.
I'm a little bit of a nag. I've been a fitness instructor for a long time, so I keep him, come on, it's time to go.
She encourages
I don't
me.
really let him hang out too much without staying after it. Well, and one thing, a piece of advice that I always had, other than, I would say, you know, at that point of impact or when you're feeling fearful, just hold each other's hand, take a moment to pray together.
I guess, honestly, first off, faith, you know, my relationship with Jesus Christ and our relationship as a family. So first, being grounded there, and then not letting fear rule, and the fear of what could happen, what if. In my family, we call it future tripping because it takes you down so many ugly roads. And focusing on the moment. And I think the one thing I did learn also was, even though I had an inclination to want to keep it secret, because I didn't know how to handle what people were gonna, how they're gonna react or respond, like my daughter, it was more, you know, to try to help her was really an interesting feeling. I think that sharing with your family and the people that will support you in a way that is positive and helpful, you know, I mean, there's sometimes you tell the wrong person and it makes it more difficult. So that would be probably the thing. Actually, I worked with Karen Clark. We both worked for Tacoma Public Schools, was involved in helping organize this. And she actually approached me. I really had no knowledge about this. I'd heard of other organizations, so this was new to me. And it was just intriguing, the idea of, first off, that this was here in Tacoma and so active. The idea of an organization that promotes closeness during this journey, you know, of supporters and people being close, because this is really important, this part right here. And then just the opportunity, what I've learned about sharing a story, because the other thing that I also have learned is that when I began to share, all of a sudden I learned of so many people I had no knowledge about that I worked with and have been through cancer and treatment, or are still going through treatment, or have just been diagnosed. And it was like, I was not even aware, you know, so it was that opportunity.